Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatica. Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel, and the gentleman sitting next to me may not be familiar to you, but you will know his voice and you will know him from, oh, that's the gentleman. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir, Mr. Guest?
Joel Miller, Erie's original and most experienced professional mobile disc jockey is what I think you're referring to.
That's what I am. And you're now, though, not doing that, and you're doing what's on your logo of your shirt.
That's
it's called
right.
Royal Family Kids.
Right.
I looked it up, I did the research, it's some really nice stuff going on. And so first of all, Joel, what is it and how did you get involved?
Well, the Royal Family Kids Camp is a free week-long overnight camp for boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 12 that are somehow connected with the foster care system of whatever county their camp is in our case, of course, Erie County. And when I say free, it is free to the county, free to the courts, no cost to the courts, no cost to the foster parents, no cost to the kids as campers, no cost to OCY. All of our campers come to us through OCY, Office of Children and Youth. And nobody gets charged at all. We raise all of our money. Each camp independently raises all of the money necessary to do their own camp each year.
How did you go from what you did to what you're doing now?
Well, my roots of my interest actually go back to one of my high school jobs. When I was in high school, I was the lifeguard on the permanent staff of Camp Lambeck, which is a Presbyterian camp that is in Erie County, and best 3 summers of my life, you know. I just had a great time with it, and I was a camper at that camp for a couple years in junior high before that. So that kind of piqued my interest in it, and the managers of that camp were a husband and wife who were from Beaver Falls and managed the camp for 30-some years. They were like second parents to me.
There was a good connection.
Yeah, I had a real understanding of the positive, effects of the camping setting for kids at that age, and the results that can come to it. Most of our camps, the kids that came to that camp were there just for a week. I was there for the whole summer on a staff. It was a little different, but I had done both. As I said, I was a camper. And I had a lot of respect for them as the managers of the camp, and kept in contact for many years. And in fact, DJ, the granddaughter wedding for one of them. And so that carried with me over the years. And I can remember, in later years when that couple was in retirement and actually in a nursing home. I went to visit them, and I said, if I never do anything more than be the manager of a camp, and by this time I was well established in the mobile DJ business, because this was in the 90s by this point, I said, if I never did more than that, that would be good for me. But that was not the career path that I took. But then this guy, Wayne Tesh, who was the founder of Royal Family.
I'm just going to ask you now.
Yeah.
This is not founded locally.
No.
This is founded nationally.
Right.
And there are local branches in every county, in every state?
Well, in most of the states, I think we're in about 36 states at this point. But this summer, there will be, I think, 190 separate camps. All but 25 of them will be in the U.S. The other 25 are spread around about 11 different foreign countries. So, no, we're not in every county, although that's the goal, eventually to get there.
And your purpose today to say is you're looking for volunteers to spread more of the word of the Royal Family camps and kids, because I have to say that until you contacted us, I was not aware of this.
Right. We're not looking so much for volunteers, because for training and security purposes and so on, we cultivate those, locally, as does each camp, through personal contacts and so on. But something like this always needs cash to occur, So I'm just trying to raise awareness of the camp, and actually not only for funding, but quite honestly, there are foster parents who don't even know about the camp. Although that situation has lessened a great deal over the years, because this is our 8th year doing the camp, and
we're not at liberty to say where this camp is taking place, and rightfully so. I don't think that should be public knowledge, not at this level at least. And so, how do you or how did your staff determine who are those children that come out of these situations with OCY, foster parents? How are they determined that they'll go to the camp this time?
It's very simple. This is not an income-based camp at all. There are really only two qualifications. Number one, be in the right age group, 6 to 12. It's primarily 7 to 11. We occasionally take a 6-year-old or 12-year-old, particularly if they have a sibling that is in 7 to 11. So be in the age group and be part of the Erie County foster care system. So somehow, some way, that kid is in the system and either living with a foster parent or perhaps with what we call kinship care, which is handled by family services, subcontracted to them by OCY. Kinship care is when the child actually lives with extended family or perhaps with their own parents, but for some reason their parents need to be under observation by the county for some situation.
I am familiar with that, yeah. So, not quickly, but when they go to the camp, what do they do at the camp? Are there more? It's a camp for kids, and it's time for you to be a child and a kid, and do the things you didn't do, or are there moral lessons attached to?
Well, it is twofold that way. The main mission of the camp is to provide positive memories for the abused, abandoned, and neglected kids that attended.
Let me stop you right there. Glad you said that, abused, abandoned, and neglected. Since your involvement in this, have you seen the numbers going up of these abused, abandoned, neglected, staying about the same or dropping?
I don't know all the figures that OCY maintains, and until I actually became the director of the camp in later years, and this is our 8th year doing the camp, I was the assistant director for the first 5 years. This is my 3rd year as a director. And when I started as a director giving some presentations and so on, I would get facts and figures, and we have some here today to share. So I don't know what OCY's numbers are in terms of the number of incidents per year and the number of kids in there, but I am led to believe that it's a relatively steady thing. And keep in mind that we are not out there trying to prevent child abuse as our function. You know, we're saying, hey, given that there's going to be this, unfortunately, this situation, given that there's going to be child abuse, given that there's going to be parents who somehow manage to abuse, abandon, or neglect their children, then we can do this. And the reason why we do it is because of the such of a likelihood of negative outcomes in our community for kids who spent their life in foster care. And we can talk more about those statistics, but I just wanted to get back a little bit to a question I didn't finish answering about the origin of Royal Family and my involvement in it. In 1985, a pastor in Southern California named Wayne Tesh was offered a free week at a brand new campground that had been built in the mountains outside of the Santa Ana area there. Orange County, and they said, but do something different than just have kids at camp, So they actually did the first Royal Family Kids Camp that year, and it was just the one camp, and it was, what he did was he chose to do a camp for foster kids. And that went on for a few years while he was still on the staff of that church, just doing that camp on his vacation.
There's a religious connotation here, a religious basis to this?
I must quickly point out there's no proselytization. And as the years have gone by, the sponsors of the camps are all churches in the counties where they exist, but they are of virtually every denomination. It's not. This is not from any particular church. It is a faith-based organization doing something for the community, like nuns having a soup kitchen. There's no qualification for these people to get their meals, from the organization, but we don't do proselytization at all. But it carries over into the types of lessons that we talk about with the kids that are really about how to function in our community. You know, how
So
to
that
act toward ourselves,
yeah.
each other,
Need
how
of
to
the
act toward
camp.
adults, other kids.
One of those needs of the camp
Right.
is that what you're just saying right now. I would assume then that not only do the children take a lot away from this, but the volunteers do.
Yeah, you know, you think that you go as a volunteer thinking
Right.
you're going to do this for the kids,
yeah.
and you end up being the one that maybe gains more out of it. And I can tell you some really specific things. What do the adults get out of it? Well, I can tell you that now this is our 8th year, as I say, doing the camp. Starting almost immediately, we started having volunteers at the camp get involved with being foster parents.
Okay.
And then moving into adoption.
Now, those qualifications, as long as you brought that up, if you're going to move into being a foster parent, you have to go through a vetting process.
Right. As you do with being a volunteer at the camp,
Right.
along with training and so on.
And so it has served a twofold purpose. Gee, I'd like to help you out for about a week or so, but gee, I didn't realize. And let me ask you, Joel Miller, what opened your eyes about these children? Were you ever aware that there was such, I'm looking for kind words here, that people could treat their progeny so
No.
abused, abandoned, and neglected? You cause this person to be brought into the world, and that's about ending. You end it right about there. Were you ever aware of how
No,
that
this
other
Phil,
side of the coin?
This stuff flies under the radar in our community. I wasn't aware as much at all until I got involved with the camp of the not only the pervasiveness of this sort of conduct among parents, unfortunately, in our community and other communities, but also the nature of the things that happen to these kids. I mean, once you are involved with...
cannot mention them here, and I don't want to mention them here,
No.
but they are certainly jaw-dropping.
Yeah, the things that you and I would never want to be around, and we'd question how we would be if we had lived through that, you know. So as I said, Wayne started this camp, and then it was finally in 1990 that he left his position there and incorporated Royal Family, and it has grown since then.
Yeah.
And
Obvious
so at some point he visited the church that I attend, Erie First Assembly, and just simply gave a presentation that he's done all over the country about, hey, why don't you guys consider having this camp? And my interest was piqued immediately, and I thought I'd just be a counselor, you know, that's all. But as it turned out, we did not start a camp for many years there, and finally we got somebody else that came on staff that had experience doing a Royal Family camp in another town where they had worked. And first thing I know, I'm not a counselor. I'm the assistant guy, you know.
Phil's going to go to camp with you coming up. So what am I going to do when I'm there?
Well,
what kind of activities do you have planned?
In that respect, it's very much like what you would think of as your typical summer camp experience from the Y or from Scouts. The particular place that we go just built coincidentally a brand new pool the first year we started there. It's a very nice outdoor pool, and swimming is probably the most popular event that gets repeated session after session throughout the week. But this particular place allows us to do a little horseback riding, ropes course type of things, you know, challenge course. And
besides the obvious athletic activities, the outdoor hike, whatever, are there any activities geared toward any educational, reading, internet, math, science?
No, that is not the nature of the camp as far as that sort of instruction goes. No, this is an opportunity for these kids to experience things that they otherwise wouldn't have a chance to, because number one, they're not even they're not going to some other camp. And number two, even if they're not going to camp, oftentimes kids get these experiences just with their family and their parents. But foster kids just get moved around so much.
Yeah, they do.
You know, that they you know, you're talking about what goes on. Well, you know, some of these kids get to the camp and we go to the dining hall to eat, and they don't realize they can have as much food as they want. And so they'll maybe kind of have to get used to it, not having to pile a bunch of food on their plate, you know, or not worry that somebody else is going to take food that, you know, would leave them less. And, you know, they get there and they actually are surprised to find out that we as volunteers are the only adults around them who are not getting paid. I mean, think about that. Every other adult in that kid's life is getting paid.
Paid to be a foster parent.
The judge is getting paid, the caseworker's getting paid, their teacher's getting paid.
Somebody's there just for them.
Exactly.
And,
you know, and
so you make your appeal that, you know, you want people that would be volunteer, no pay allowed here. You got to be special person to do this, you know. I mean, you have to. This is not just they stay overnight, or is it just
yeah, we send all of our staff down on Sunday afternoon and get everything set, do a little team building Sunday night, and then some of us come back to the registration area on Monday morning. And that's when the royal treatment starts for the kids. We don't just have a school bus. We hire a motor coach to take the kids to the camp, get them there by lunchtime on Monday, and we bring them back after lunch on Friday, and turn them back over to their caregivers.
How do they like sleeping overnight there with a whole bunch of their peers, in a sense?
Well, that can be a challenge for some of them. I mean, there are kids, you have to understand, that have their background involves issues that occurred while they were sleeping. There's a story that is not in our camp, but one of the other camps, and there's always these stories coming out because they're just so touching, and there's books published about that have been put together by the letters from campers and letters from volunteers, or little stories from volunteers, and they compile them. And I remember reading one about a particular girl that went to sleep at the beginning of the week with 4 layers of clothing on.
Wow.
Her big breakthrough was Thursday night, just wearing PJs.
A lot of symbolism involved in there. Now, some of my notes, it says you have a mentoring program.
Yeah, that is the coolest thing, because you see, to this point in 20-some years of the camping seasons for Royal Family, all of the camps have been told that they can't have any connection with the campers after Camp Week, because they never wanted Royal Family to be a grooming opportunity for anyone who had wrong ideas with the camp, or with campers, excuse me. So that was an unfortunate thing, because, you know, there were good connections that would get made between the volunteers and particularly counselors and kids, and you'd want to maybe see them, but you can't. Well, after hearing of that desire for you know, many years, finally a few years ago, the national organization in California brought in someone to be a vice president of the organization that had background in this, and began some beta testing and some curriculum development, and ultimately came up with a model that turned into an official program for a mentoring program for the school year. So that you know, with a little bit of more training and a little more accountability and so on with the adults, that they felt that we could have this mentoring program, which goes from September to May. We are doing this for the first time in our camp this coming school year. And we got the training. I had to go for another almost a week training in California for the people that will lead this, and it's really quite amazing, because even the best of mentoring programs, and what comes to mind often is like Big Brothers Big Sisters, wonderful organization, does great work. Still, they are introducing strangers. You know, the adult and the child. You guys are going to be partnership. Okay, let's see how it goes. And they can take perhaps as long as 8 months to, you know, find a match. even their statistics will tell you that after 4 months, almost half of the mentoring relationships have broken down in those sort of mentoring programs. Royal Family is the first nationwide mentoring program for kids of this age that are foster kids. And we are experiencing that 96% of the mentoring relationships are still together after not just 4 months, but all 9 months of the school year. The reason is that everybody knows each other from camp, and we can match people in a matter of weeks. So you have to have been a camper at the camp in order to enter the mentoring program that September. The camp is in July. Yeah. You have to have been a volunteer at the camp to be considered to be a mentor. Either a counselor or staff member could become a mentor. And we do additional training then in August between camp week and mentoring in September.
Is there only 1 week for camp?
Yes, camp is 1 week.
One week.
Right.
And how many total students will be there?
Well, we've worked our way up from having 20, then 30, 40 to last year we had 52. The year before that we had 60. The only reason why I didn't have more last year is because we had a waiting list for boys because we didn't have enough man volunteers to be counselors. We have a maximum ratio of only 2 kids per counselor. It's not like other camps where you might have 10 or 12 kids and 1 counselor. Okay. And now with the mentoring, there will be 1 mentoree and 1 adult. You know, and that the experience there will be that for at least 4 hours each month, the mentor and the kid will spend time together, spread over at least 2 or 3 visits. You know, they'll go do things. You know this
go do things though has to get the permission of the foster parents or the
absolutely.
OCY. I mean,
everybody knows. There's mileage logs.
There's process here.
Everybody knows where everybody is. There's even a GPS app for the mentor's phone, iPhone, so that everybody knows where they went. So then they do, at least 4 hours each month together, and then 1 time a month for about 2 hours, all of the mentors and all of the kids meet at the same place for what we call club. And they might meet at the beach for those 2 hours or at the zoo or whatever, but we have a home base.
We got a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
What you're talking about takes money.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. What kind of money are we talking about? Because I know that part of the reason we have these people in here is so many organizations like yourselves struggle. They need volunteers to help. They need financial assistance. So when you're putting on a camp for that many people, and you're feeding people 3 times a day or more, that's some dollars.
Yeah, it costs us about $36,000 to do that 1 week of camp when you add up all the expenses from training the adults, buying the supplies, and the motor coach to get them back and forth, and U-Haul to get our supplies back and forth, all that stuff. And we're required to have certain supplies like a shirt like this and so on. Yeah. And that works out to about $600 per kid if you send 60 kids. We need another $10,000 on top of that now per year just to do our mentoring program.
Wow. Wow. By the way, you do have a website which has been on the screen a couple of times, but there's a lot of information in that website about what it is that you do and how legitimate you are and what goes on. And I would think that this would be a perfect opportunity to have people contact you and say, hey, I'm really interested in this. Here's my background. I'm willing to go through any vetting you have to put me through. How can I help you by joining up, by signing up, by helping you financially? Anything I can do, just let me know. So you got about 1.5 minutes or so to give your best spiel, and then we'll go from there.
In case you didn't see the website, it's www.erie.royalfamilykids.org.
Yes.
And you should know that until a few years ago, when the club and mentoring began to be a big part of Royal Family, the official name of the organization was Royal Family Kids Camp. And now it's just Royal Family Kids because of this expansion. And about 20% of the camps now have the mentoring, and that's growing. But if you go to our site, there's actually a little donate button on there. And you could be assured that if you were on the Erie.RoyalFamilyKids site, that donation would go strictly to the Erie camp.
Thanks for your good deeds. Thank you for coming
Phil,
and
it's a
sharing
pleasure.
them with us. Mobile DJ.
Now that I'm retired from mobile DJing,
Mobile mentor.
35 years, 5,057 appearances.
Who's counting?
This is what I'm doing.
Well, but is what you were meant to do.
Yeah. This is all volunteer.
You are
Everybody
mobile
is
mentoring.
just volunteering to do this,
Thanks,
and
Joe.
it's not my job, but
Appreciate
I love
it.
it.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.